We are back at Ruth. We are dealing with Ruth chapter 2, verses 14 and 16. I have separated these two sections and dealt them independently. So the first section is 8 through 13, where Boaz encounters Ruth and he blesses her and says, "Don't leave the field." And now he invites her into a dinner. I've dealt with these two because I wanted to really highlight the importance of each aspect of what Boaz is doing. Many scholars clump these two together, and that's fine. I just want because I believe they're so important that they need to be dealt with individually. And right now, I'm going to deal with 14 to 16, just two verses, but they're so significant. I've titled this An Invitation for Fellowship. The big idea here is that Boaz invites Ruth to be a part of the group in a lunch meal. This was completely unheard of, to allow an outsider into your intimate company. There's a couple words I want to hit on. Um, Two Hebrew words. Clem, which means to reproach, cause harm. It's used in the Hifil, and it has a causative agent. So there are seven basic um, Hebrew verb stems, and the Hifil is one of them. We have the PL, the Pual, the Hifil, the Hofal, the Hippoteo, and one other. It will come to my mind later. Next is the word, looks like the word guard or gad, which means to rebuke or insult, and we're really gonna see some of that. Um, and what he tells, so the first usage of them not causing harm, and in the second, um, not to insult her. We still have this idea of God's providence. And let me explain to you what God's providence is once again. God's invisible hand we often do not see. We often don't see what God is moving behind the scenes. That's why we need to be careful when we say God ain't active. God's always active, even if we don't see it. This idea of mealtime, it would have been in lunch. So whenever they would have ate lunch is when they're talking about mealtime. They're not so much talking about dinner. Um, this idea of a morsel is a portion of food near or equal to a mouthful, which we would often say of a spoon. Often used of bread. This morsel could have been grain cake cooked in oil, something like pound cake. So it would have been like a pound cake, but not quite. Um, but it would just been of grain. Wine could have either been wine or vinegar that has gone through a fermented process like wine does. This would have been used specifically for food, but would have been bitter to drink. So the wine that they're talking about is what you would dip a piece of bread in and eat it, um, but not to drink. Sheaves. Sheaves often denote either a bundle or a small heap of grain. Grain was put in sheaves before transferring to the threshing floor. Therefore, sheaves could be better positioned in the field. So after they had cut it, they put it down that they would put those in bundles of what is called as sheaves. Uh, Now I'm going to read from Ruth chapter 2, verses 14 and 16. And at meal time at lunch, Boaz said to her, "Come here and eat some bread and dip your morsel in the wine." So this invitation is even more. So she sat beside the reapers, and he passed to her the roasted grain. She ate until she was satisfied. She had some left over. When she rose to glean, Boaz instructed his young men, saying, "Let her glean among from the sheaves. Do not reproach her. So do not cause her physical harm. And also pull out some bundles for her and leave it for her to glean. And do not insult her while you're doing it." Very simple outline in verse 14. Um, Boaz invites Ruth to eat with her. 14 has these subsections. So first, Boaz meets Ruth's immediate need in 14a. 14b, Ruth sits beside the group. 14c, Boaz gives her food. And lastly, in D and E, Ruth is full and has left over. Next, Boaz instructs the reapers not to harm her in verse 15, and Boaz instructs the reapers to provide for Ruth. At some point, when it was time to eat, probably during lunchtime, Boaz invites Ruth to come and eat with the group. Historically and culturally, it's important. They all would have eaten together. To have someone not to eat together would have indicated that this person is not one of them. Culturally, eating together was a sign of a covenant, sign that you were part of the people. Inviting Ruth, who was an outsider, says to her and to the entire group that she is one of us, not an outsider. Boaz is in a position, he's in his position of authority, of not just Ruth, but really everyone in the group. He has the authority. Although Bo is one in authority, he is not authoritarian. He sees him, he doesn't see him above everybody else, but one of them. Here, Boaz shows the proper way of how one uses their authority and influence to be a vessel of grace and kindness and not one of oppression. Boaz invites Ruth here to join them. This the invitation does several things. It's important. First, it meets her immediate need of hunger. Second, she is seated within the group and not outside of the group. True acceptance invites people in the group so they can partake of the fellowship of well. Third, he gives her food. The obvious leader of the group is initiating and telling the group that she's one of them. Fourth, she eats to her full. Fifth, he provides her for her future. So Boaz here goes above and beyond of what even would have been expected. And he allows her to glean. But now he takes his kindness to the ultimate level. He goes to the next level to possibly allowing her to go to be more fruitful in the field and give her some by leaving some that was left over. Boaz not only invites her, but instructs his reapers not to cause or verbally harm her. Obviously, aware that the reapers would not like an outsider being shown so much favor. Boaz also instructs his reapers to pull out from some of their own so Ruth can be provided for. Boaz adds an additional comment: do not rebuke her, that is, don't mock her or insult her while you're doing it. So the usage of these words, one is not to cause physical harm, but also don't insult her. Because there's more than one way to cause somebody harm. I don't have to physically harm you to hurt you. I can cause mental harm to you. Next. So that's all for our Ruth from 14 to 16. Next week, I will go over the next poor portion where she goes home and she talks to Naomi. Have a great day.